as we come here today and get in the waiting room, admitting is everyone. What a great group. I'm Lisa Graining. I am with Turn the Page STL, St. Louis's chapter of the Campaign for Grading, and a very proud St. Louis Region childhood community leader. Oh my goodness, Zoom is talking to me. Hopefully, I want to, before we share the slides, I just like to see everybody's faces. So if you can come off your video, that would be lovely. And you all know that that and you all know that at the beginning of this presentation, I'm going to ask you guys for some updates because when we come together, we need to learn from each other. All righty. I believe, still admitting people. I wonder if there's an admit all. And you can see how casual these meetings are too, right? Like I'm like, I wonder if there's a admit all. Christy Roberts is on here. She could always figure that stuff out. Okay. Uh, see how you guys can see how there we go. How casual this is. Everybody see this? Welcome. Welcome. Like I said, I'm Lisa Graining with Turn the Page STL. I want to introduce my two colleagues here. They can come off mute. Tiffany Herbert and Kelly Hantek. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm going to be brief because you'll probably hear banging. I work at a tech school and I'm in between HVAC and all of this stuff. So if you hear banging, I'm really sorry. They're working hard. I teach early childhood careers in St. Charles City at Lewis and Clark Career Center.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kelly Hantek. I am the Senior Manager of Strategic Program Advancement at United for Children. We are located in the city of St. Louis, but we provide services to child care providers across the state. Welcome. I see a lot of friends on this call.
Tiffany, you want to take it over?
Yeah. All right. So again, welcome everyone. We're really excited about today's meeting because it's our first of this year where we have presenters and we have two phenomenal presenters today. We're going to go through introductions. And if you want to just kind of be thinking about what your answers might be, you can feel free to come off mute and tell us. But if you would just say your name, organization, and then now that we're kind of back in the swing, what are some things that you're finding that are pretty promising and what might be some concerns that you're starting to have. But if you're interested in just putting that in the chat as well, that's okay too. We have two presenters today, Melissa and Ashley. We're super excited to have them. They're going to talk about some great things today. We want your input because we are planning some future meetings and speakers. So we're looking for what kinds of programs, what kinds of efforts are you looking for that we can have as future meetings, guest speakers. Also, we're going to just touch up about our newsletter, our Facebook page. We want everyone to join if you haven't already. We're going to talk about the MFR tool and then Missouri Dolly Parton Imagination Library because we love Dolly, and then our upcoming meetings that we're about to have.
And don't forget, if you have events that are happening with your organization, please feel free to put in the chat those flyers or email me or Callie or Tiffany because we want to make sure everybody in our group knows what all the great events that you're doing. So this is the part where I my favorite part of our meetings. When I ask you to come off mute, I will actually stop sharing this slide and ask, where are you finding what are you finding promising in your work right now, and what concerns do you have now that our school year has started? And I'm going to ask Tiffany to put that question in the chat so that everybody can see that, because of course I like to see everybody and call on you. I think I always start, I'm going to start with, not with Christy. I'm going to start with, who wants to start? Who wants to share what they're up to and what concerns that they have moving forward in the early childhood education space? Joanne, please get us
Hi,
started.
everybody. I'll start. Hi, I'm Joanne Suda. I'm currently on the Special School District of St. Louis County Board of Education. I'm a lifetime early childhood educator. And I'm also part of the Early Education District Coalition, working to expand early childhood in St. Louis County. What's promising is we saw so many kiddos sort of disappear from our schools after COVID, and we're starting to see an uptick. So that's very promising. I think, like everybody, we rely on funding from external sources. We're very worried about federal, state, and local funding. So that's what's keeping us up at night. Thanks.
Amen to that. I'm glad to hear about attendance. I would love to know about your childcare centers and what you're seeing. Are the kids coming, are we seeing the kids coming back to these great places? Are our childcare centers and our pre-Ks, are they in business still? I mean, seriously, do children have a place to go? Can I ask Mary, one of my favorite people? Well, you're all my favorite people, but Mary's one of my favorite people. Would you like to come off mute and tell everybody, what's going on with your organization, with your childcare? Maybe speak a little bit about what STAR is up to. Tell us what's going on.
Mary Crock Smith.
Yes, you.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Hi. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate that. I am Mary Crockett Smith, and I am a provider for 4 years in the world of St. Louis City, St. Louis County area. What do I do? I also work with Gateway Alliance as a provider director of engagement, and we just literally work in the communities to make sure that the providers, legislation, funding, philanthropy money, etc., is coming into the area, and so that it's equally distributed and people are very aware of what's going on. My concerns are the typical ones: legislation, the budget, compensation. Are we able to afford high quality care? We want it, but are we able to afford it? What it looks like when you have longevity with teachers and the cost to keep them, the cost just to have a staff that has experience and high quality, because that's the service in which we pay for, versus having people that are just, around to keep children. So the quality, the resources, the need, that's very, very concerning to me. And I believe that Missouri can do it. We're the show me state, and we're going to do it. We're going to pull it out.
Agree. And we're also, I'm excited about learning again about changes in the QAR and benefits to that today. And some funding opportunities for new child cares. Anybody else? Come on. I think people are all getting ready for Gala and Blanc. I hope everybody knows about that event on Saturday night for Urban Sprouts. So many of you are on mute I don't know how many, Mary, you'll have to come off mute. How many people show up to this fundraiser? It's the talk of our town. 500?
I don't work directly with Urban Sprouts, but it's a
Right.
major event that is most definitely something that Alicia does
Ooh.
in the community, and that it makes the biggest difference for the population she serves and the services that she offers for the non-for-profit organization she runs. It's a very worthwhile organization.
All it just said 600 to 700 people attend this fundraiser. And I do understand it's sold out. So, but there might be an extra chairs around too, if you're interested. Now, normally you guys know I would call you out, like I called Mary
Okay.
out. All right,
I'll
Larry,
talk.
come on. All right, what's going on?
My name is Larry Felton. My background is the Melville School Board District. I was on that for 15 years. I retired 2 years ago. I also was a past president of MSBA, so I'm very focused from the school consideration and the facilities. Currently, I'm working with Joanne on an early education district proposal to try and organize and provide a little more resources into early education in the county. My main concern is Jefferson City. The legislature, what we've seen them do, and chances are whatever they do, they'll screw up. That's my history with them. So I think it's important to me explain to them what is the best thing to do. And we have a sponsor with Tracy McCrary, some work we're doing. So there's people up there that'll listen, but it's going to take some work.
It's a tough place for our urban community. It's a very tough place.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Kimberly.
Hi.
Introduce yourself to the group, who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Kimberly Weekly. I'm with Missouri Childhood Community Leaders. And I really just think, as far as the promising things, you're looking at 3 of the wonderful promising things that's happening across our state. And these are your community leaders. We're very fortunate that I think that the state is starting to understand that it isn't just one group. We need to have programs, high quality programs. We need to have parents. We need to have community voices. And these ladies are here doing just what we want them to do, pulling all of these beautiful programs together to see how we can support each other and to help with some of those barriers that you guys are saying that are out there. What can we do? It's tough to solve problems, but when you have a group of wonderful people like you and who are devoted to education and families and communities, things can get done. So very promising things, I think, with this group, and so appreciative of your community leaders. They are so engaged with this, and just very proud of that. The barriers, I think, are probably going to be everybody's barriers. We do have a lot of resources. We always need more. I think it's getting those resources to those families and those communities, and then really finding out where those gaps are and helping provide, because we truly want every child has the right for a high quality education. Every child. I love this group for doing. Appreciate them so much. So thank you for having me.
Agree. I totally agree. And Kimberly, in the past, we always had our first few slides were about who are the community, what are community leaders? And basically, we want to rebuild we want to rebuild a rocky bridge between the St. Louis community region and early childhood education and our Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Office of Childhood. And we want to do it well and in a trusting manner. And it is a pleasure working with you, Kimberly. Absolute pleasure. Okay, well, I am going, since we have 2 phenomenal speakers today, usually we have 1, but we have 2 phenomenal speakers today. I am going, unless anybody else wants to come off mute.
Hey, Lisa, I would just for 1 second.
Yes, Jeff.
Thank you for allowing me to join this. This is my first one of these calls. Everybody, my name is Jeff Wilkins. I'm the new regional manager in the St. Louis market for Lakeshore Learning Materials. So this is me just introducing myself, looking forward to learning more about this and being able to support any and all of the communities out there and the programs out there that are represented on this call. So that's all I wanted to say. Just thank you for the opportunity and look forward to learning about this.
Awesome. I'm just admitting 2 more people in here. Okay. Please also flyers, whatever is going on with your organization, please feel free to put them in the chat. All right. Tiffany? Oh, I'm sorry. Kelly, take it away.
Great, thank you. So, as we've said, there are 2 speakers today. One is Melissa Newkirk, who is Associate Director and the Project Coordinator for the Quality Assurance Report at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And she is going to provide us with updates and benefits and tell us all the great things that are going on with the QAR across the state. And then we have Ashley Page, who is a program specialist at the Office of Childhood, and she is here to talk to us about the release of the Missouri Innovation Grant proposals that are happening right now. So thank you to both of our speakers for joining us today. And Melissa, feel free to take it away.
And please, everyone, if you have questions for the speakers, you can put them in the chat, or after each speaker, we'll have time for you to come off mute.
Thanks, everybody. I'm really glad to be here today. I love talking about my project. So I shouldn't call it my project. It's our project. We all own this project. But I just love coming and sharing information about it, getting the word out about the project and how people can get involved and the benefits that it has for our early learning programs. So we conduct the Quality Assurance Report project in partnership with the Office of Childhood at DESE, and we are at UMKC. But I do want to say when I say we are at UMKC, this is a statewide quality initiative, and we serve the entire state of Missouri. We just happen to be out of the Kansas City University here. So do you want to switch slides? So just a little bit of background for those of you that maybe are not familiar with QAR. I'm not going to do a deep dive into QAR. I'm going to skim through and go very quickly. So if you don't know QAR very well and you want a really deep dive, I will be more than happy to engage in a very deep conversation with you, and we can get into the nitty-gritties of it. But basically, QAR started a few years ago, and we went through a redesign process on the way that we were approaching quality designation in the state of Missouri for early learning programs. Previous systems that had been in place were very much focused on what you have to do, levels and points and requirements, and there wasn't a lot of choice involved, and there wasn't a lot of provider input into how that process was going to work for people. So we gathered a group of stakeholders together, and those stakeholders are really who designed this system and said, yep, this works. No, this doesn't. Here's what we want to see. Here's what we don't want to see out of a system. And so we've created a brand new system. And actually, I will tell you, the state of Missouri, the way that we approach quality designation is different than any other state does it. And a lot of states are looking to us going, oh, what are you doing? This is very different. And how you let people designate their quality designations. And so it's a very different method of how we do it here in the state of Missouri. So the voices of our stakeholders in the field were really crucial to this revision process and how we got to where we are. And so the really important part of QAR is that at the heart of any designation is interactions with children. Educator-child interactions. That is at the heart of the entire system and is the core of the whole system. And so we want to make sure that those interactions are happening and that educators have the tools that they need to engage with children in a really productive way. So do you want to switch slides? I should have like a word I say to, or like a hand gesture or something. So for our QAR, there are different phases when a program applies and comes into the system. There are different phases that they go through on their journey to getting a quality designation. Everyone comes in under the committing to quality phase. All programs, the first thing that happens is we go in and we do observations in all of the classrooms or the learning environments. We do infant, toddler, and preschool. We don't do school age at this point in time, so we stop at preschool. But we look at those. We use the class observation tool, and that looks solely at educator-child interactions. It's measuring different aspects of that and how that looks in the environment. So depending on whether or not the program is meeting quality thresholds for interactions, alters how their path looks as they go through this. We provide a lot of different services, but at the core of this is on-site coaching with educators about improving those educator-child interactions. So if programs aren't meeting thresholds for that, they get a lot of intensive coaching. And when I say intensive coaching, we're meeting twice a month with educators on site at their programs, and we implement the practice-based coaching model. And I'll talk about that here in just a second. But then as they start meeting thresholds, then they can move into building quality. And if they meet their indicator thresholds, then they can move into recognizing quality and they can earn their quality designation at that point in time. Continuous quality improvement is a process throughout every phase of this process. It never stops. That's why that journey goes around in a circle, because it's not a destination. You never reach the end. There's always something that you can be working on and improving in your practice. So switch slide. I'm going to keep moving here. I'll try to go fast. I like to talk, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I do this. So some of the benefits when a program enrolls in QAR that are available to all programs in QAR. The first thing is that everybody has access to practice-based coaching. This is an evidence-based coaching implementation model. It really mirrors what happens in Head Start programs. We do that on purpose. And so that's the coaching model that we implement in our programs. All programs have access to free professional development opportunities they're all approved for MOPD clock hours. We have, they can enroll as an individual and do training that way. We have intensive group coaching options that are available. And we even do customized on-site professional development. So if a site has we have a PD day coming up, can you come and do a training on whatever? We can do that as part of the access in the program. So we offer class reliability training for administrators at programs. So when I say directors, that could be a director, it could be a curriculum coordinator or assistant director, but it does need to be somebody that's in a leadership role at the program, just because of the level that training is at. But that class reliability training is available for the administrators of programs. All educators get access to quality supports and resources through My Teachstone, which is an online service. It's very class-based. Usually it's like little snippets of videos, there's written resource materials, things like that, and they have free access into this repository of all of these resources. It's really high quality things that they have access to. One of the really important things that I'm hoping more programs take advantage of is that we offer a fully funded access to the Child Development Associate credential for any participating QAR program, and that could be any staff member that works at that program. And there's a clock hour option for that, and there's a college credit option for that. So we just added the college credit option this last year, and that has really kind of taken off, where people can get 9 college credits and while they're working on their Child Development Associate credential. And so we pay for the training, and we also pay for the application fee to the council with that. So it's a pretty good value that they get out of that. And they have to be employed at a QAR program to qualify this, and it's only the one that's offered through Teachstone. So it's very class-based too. So it's really founded on teacher-child interactions in the class lens to get those 120 clock hours. That's the training requirement for their credential. And then all programs also have access to a quality designations through DESE when they meet their requirements. Next slide. Our practice-based coaching that we implement in our programs is really, I'm not going to go over all of this, but we implement this program. But the really important thing to know about this is not someone coming in with a clipboard and an observation result and saying, these are things you have to do. We don't ever do that. It's where do you want to start? What looks good for you? What do you want to try to tackle first? And then we create a goal, an action plan, and a coaching plan based on where that educator wants to start. So it's very focused on what the program needs and what that educator needs. We don't ever go in and tell people what they're supposed to be working on. And every program has access to that coaching ongoing. How it looks is different depending on what their quality determination is as they move through their journey, but everyone has access to the coaching, which I think is a huge resource. If they had to access that outside of this project, that would be a really big thing for them to have to get. We switch slides. Okay. So we have our quality indicators. The slide cut off some of what was on here.
I am so sorry. You can
No,
see
you're
I said in
good.
the mute, I said in the chat, now everybody knows my tech skills.
You are okay.
You'll
So
get the correct ones.
So what is important to know is that the QAR is built on quality indicators. There are 2 indicators under quality interactions that are measured by the class and the class environments tool. Then we have a set of quality indicators that are operational practices, and there are 5 of those. And then there are responsive practices, and there are 5 of those. And so to get a quality designation, at the minimum, a program has to meet the thresholds for quality interactions. That's the baseline. Once they meet that, then they can move on and work on these operational and responsive practices, which really get documented at an administrative level. It involves documentation from classrooms, but really the program administrator is the one who is responsible for gathering the documentation and submitting everything. And so how a quality designation works is that a program administrator would choose 3 or 4 operational practices and 3 or 4 responsive practices that they feel illustrate the strengths of their program. So like one of the operational practices that is on here is staff qualifications, and that's looking at how people level on the selected occupations chart in the MOPD system. And so that's looking at college degrees and college credit and things like that. Well, we all know in the field, especially in community-based early learning programs and family childcare, finding qualified staff that have associate's or bachelor's degrees is tough, right? And so if that's not something your program would ever be able to meet, you just don't pick that one. You don't have to document quality in that area. You say, well, okay, I know what the standards are, but we're never going to meet it. So you pick something else. So maybe you pick the professional development one and you say, okay, we can make a goal to make sure all of our staff have 18 clock hours annually instead of the required 12 clock hours annually. That is something that we can do, right? And so that's kind of what we do. So it's a picking and choosing of saying, here's where we have strengths, here's where we can build on it, and where do we shine and where can we highlight that as a program? And it's really up to the provider to choose what that looks like for them. Lisa, if you would switch the slide. So what this can look like is no two programs will ever look the same in their quality designation. One program may pick business practices, staff qualifications, and health and wellness, while another one may pick staff qualifications, health and wellness, and enhanced program feature. They may not pick the same things. And so those icons represent the different practice categories. So no two programs will look the same, and it's really very intentionally designed that way so that really the uniqueness of programs can really be highlighted when we're talking about these quality designations. So if you flip the slide. So for QAR quality designations, there's two different designations. There's demonstrating quality and exhibiting high quality. Both of them have to have quality interactions being met. For demonstrating quality designation, you have to have 3 operational practices and 3 responsive practices. And for exhibiting high quality, you have to have 4 operational practices and 4 responsive practices. That's really the difference between those two. The requirements are not different between the levels. It's just at exhibiting high quality, you choose one more indicator on top of your 3, you do 4. So that's how quality designation works. Some of the things that are happening that are not really changing, but we're just doing some further implementation as we're going. The first thing is that in January, the class tool has come out with a new infant toddler tool. There's an infant tool now and a toddler tool now. That is really hard for programs, especially our 1-year-old classrooms, because sometimes they're infant rooms and sometimes they're toddler rooms. And so it's like really hard to coach on that because the tool will switch. And so this new tool encompasses birth through 35 months. And so we're switching over to that tool as of January 1st, and it's going to be better for programs. It's much simpler. It's one less thing to have to learn. It really is going to highlight what's going on in programs a lot better. The other thing that is happening is that if you are not familiar with the MOPD system, which is our Missouri Professional Registry system, that is the system, all licensed programs, all of their training is processed through there and their program profiles and all of those things. QAR is going live in the MOPD system in October. We're in the process of getting everything, all of our data entered and back entered and get everything set up in it right now. But what that means is that from application through, programs will be able to track their progress through QAR and their quality designation and how they are submitting things in that MOPD system. So it's really centralizing things into a one-stop place so that people go to the same place to be accessing things. All of the coaching records will be in there. Their assessment documentation will be in there. Everything will be in one central place. And so for those of you who have ever had to launch a build of a website, a high functionality website, this has taken us probably almost 2 years to get the build done and get it functioning the way it's supposed to. So we are weeks away from getting it going live. So that's really exciting. Programs will need to be updating their program information in the MOPD system. And so there's some tabs that are in there that have been previously probably untouched by a lot of programs because they haven't really needed to use it. But for QAR, they are going to have to start getting in those tabs and updating their staffing information and their classroom information and all of that kind of stuff, because that's what the QAR is based on. That is the backbone of a lot of that information. One of the other things, I didn't put it on here, I was, I don't know about any of you, but I was taking slides from a previous presentation and making updates and changes at about 11:30 this morning, getting it all finished and done. But there were a couple more updates I wrote down that I was like, we need to talk about on this call. One of them is that in this next year in QAR, we're significantly increasing enrollment in QAR. And we really want to focus that enrollment on community-based early learning programs and family child care providers throughout the state. And so We really want to highlight that enrollment and get as many of those programs in, because a lot of those programs are under-resourced and really need a lot of access to these types of supports in order to increase the quality that they're offering in their programs. And so we want to be able to do that and get that available to them. The other thing that I want to kind of throw out there to you is that because we're in a lot of early learning programs, we would like to be able to distribute through the project any other resources in the St. Louis community to the programs that are in St. Louis, other supports and services that they could have access to. And so we already do that with the other DESE quality improvement initiatives. So that's like the MOPD navigators and the MOSICA project, the child care health consultation, the infant and early childhood mental health work, the child care inclusion project, those things. We try to share out that information as it comes available, but I think there might be some other things too that as they come up. I know that there's some projects, the innovation grants that are coming out, the Childcare Works partnerships that are coming out. That's going to be something that I think a lot of programs are going to want to have access to. And if there's other types of local quality work that we want to be able to partner with or hook up with, we'd like to be able to do that where it happens, where it can happen. So, and partner with our local communities. And so some of our coaches know that information because all of our St. Louis coaches that serve St. Louis programs live and work in St. Louis. They don't live and work in Kansas City. They live and work in St. Louis. They're community based. And that's true across the entire state. And so we sometimes get some of that information, but we also rely on partners to be able to tell us what's going on. And so we can share that out with some of our programs. So.
Melissa, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's the end of my spiel for
I wanted, and I see Casey has a question, but before that, really quickly, how many are currently participating in the QAR system? And for other questions, I'm only, just because of time, please email me or put it in the chat and I will connect you with Melissa and I will send out all stakeholders here Melissa's answers so that everybody is on the same page. So how many, how many are participating now and what is your goal? And
so statewide, we have a little over 1,700 classrooms that are participating. I think when I looked at the numbers recently, when Lisa and I were on a call, I think we have about 570 to 600 of those are in St. Louis, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, like in just the small local area of just St. Louis. So it's about 20%. And that matches that we have about 20% of programs. We have I think it's 470 programs. The number of programs in classrooms goes up and down as classrooms open and close and we enroll new programs. At the end of our next year, we want to have that number up to 2,500 classrooms. And so the number of programs is not necessarily as important as the number of classrooms that goes. We're looking at the number of educators that we're serving. So that's one educator per classroom. So about 2,500. So we're going to increase by about 750 classrooms this next year, which is big. We usually increase by about 250. So we're going to increase by 750. So we've got a big jump to make this year. And so that's why I'm saying, I think that we really want to have a community focus on those community-based programs that are coming in from here on out. So.
Casey, did you have your hand up? No, I don't see
It's
you.
okay. In the interest of time, I just said, Melissa, I'd love to follow up. Just sometime. I dropped my email in the chat. So
Super. And I apologize. I was going to try to share next, our next person, Ashley's PowerPoint, the original one. So I'm unable to do that at this point. But Ashley, you all will get the PowerPoints with everything on it not being cut off. I will go back here. And Kelly, do you want to introduce Ashley?
Sure. Ashley Page is a program specialist from the early childhood, from the Office of Childhood, sorry. And she's here once again to talk to us about the Missouri Innovation Grant. And I will say this is something that my phone has been ringing off the hook about. So, Ashley, I am excited to learn more information about this.
Awesome. I am happy to be here and share as much information as I can and answer questions. So just jumping right into it, this is going to be a lot about the innovation grant for startup and new childcare programs. And there is a webinar tomorrow. If you go to our the website, you can register for that webinar. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through it. And then if you have any other questions, just email me. And you can jump to the next slide. And you can jump again. It's just introducing me. And you can jump a couple times because it's going to bring up the bullet points like 4 times. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so just a little bit about the Innovation Startup Grant. It is an opportunity to help launch. That's okay. You can go back. Yep, perfect. It's an opportunity to launch to help launch new licensed childcare programs in Missouri. It's funded through the Child Care Development Fund, and it requires, which is a really important part, a business or a community partner to match those providing supports. And then you can jump to the next slide. And then who can apply? So it's for providers, of course, that are opening a new licensed childcare program. It's for providers who have not received any ARPA or CARISA startup or expansion funds at that same location that they're applying for the startup grant. And I can get a little bit more into that a little bit. And then it's also for providers who have submitted or completed an application for licensure to operate a childcare facility. And that is on or after January 1st, 2025. And then they have to be CCDF eligible and meet all the health and safety requirements, just because CCDF is funding this grant. And you can jump to the next slide. So this grant, and you can, I think, jump 2 of them, and then one more should pop up. Oh, no, sorry. So sorry. No, you're fine.
No,
okay.
It could be the slide.
Okay, so matching funds requirement. The child care program must establish a partnership. This is why I'm getting a lot of calls on from child care, since it's a little bit different for startup, but they have to have a Missouri business or a Missouri community partner who can provide either a monetary contribution or an in-kind contribution. And then the value has to match what they are requesting from DESE. And then they can have also more than one partner. It doesn't have to, or more than one community partner. And next slide. So establishing a partner. Examples of the partnership can be, but it's definitely not limited to, public, private schools, colleges, universities, hospitals, municipalities, nonprofit agencies, as well as private businesses. But again, it's not limited to those. And then establishing a partnership could continue, like some examples of support from that partnership, maybe like a donation or a discount on services, that's construction, landscaping, legal, etc. They could provide space or equipment, offer startup money, sponsorship, and volunteering their time or their expertise. And then the partnership, just a little bit more about the information. The partner must be based in Missouri. So their business or their community partnership or their community organization has to be in Missouri. The business partner must be a legal business in Missouri, and it has to be verified by the Missouri Secretary of State. And as well as the community organization must be legitimized, based in Missouri, verified through Missouri Secretary of State, through the IRS nonprofit status, and as well as local chambers of commerce and community foundation networks. And then what's in it for a partner? There's going to be 4 little Thank you. So a lot of the providers have been asking me, how can I get a provider on board, or a business partner on board, community partner on board? And these are some, like I would say, some incentives for a partnership. So like one definitely could be positive public relations, workforce support. Some employees or some business partners may need that support, providers helping, so like a mutual partnership. Tax benefits, but they definitely should check with their, tax professionals, as well as community impact. Just, some business partners and community just really want to help the community. So those are just some tips that we are. I'm sorry.
This would be federal tax benefits, correct?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, they're right. And then go to the next slide. And this is information about what the grant can and cannot pay for. So it goes into expenses that will be reimbursed. So grant is really based off matching and then being reimbursed for the providers' expenses. So minor remodeling, and I won't go through the whole thing, but up to 3 months of rent and lease, workforce incentives, children's furniture, things like that. Anything from Lakeshore, just throwing that out there, since we have Lakeshore representatives on the phone. But those things like that would definitely qualify. And then and if you do another click, it will bring up the non-reimbursable expenses. So major renovations, constructions, purchasing of land, buildings, and our terms and conditions forms really lays out what's reimbursable and what's not reimbursable. And you can go to the next slide. So this is the grant, like the chart. And there's a grant really, it's structured where it's for those facilities that are including infants and toddlers, and then those facilities that are not. If you are including infants and toddlers, there's a 25% increase because of the expenses and the pricing to care for infants and toddlers. And you could jump to the next slide. And if I'm moving too fast, let me know too. For anybody.
You're doing great.
Okay. And then the grant information, it's just kind of reiterating, it had to be matched for dollar. So if the provider is at, is request or asking for $10,000, she would have to match that, and then the partner would have to match that. And then the provider will be reimbursed for their $10,000. So that it just really kind of just goes in a little bit more of an examples on how that match is kind of laid out and what to expect for the provider as well as the partner. The payment process, it will be divided into 3 installments. First installment is, the first installment is really to kind of really prep them for licensing, the licensing application. So there's certain things that have to be in place before they can get their first installment. The second part, again, there's a couple things that have to be in place. And then the third installment, which is their last installment, those parts have to be completed. Like I said, CCDF participants need to be registered or either have taken the training. And then all of the requirements that are submitted need to be notarized and documented. So application requirements. So this is really what we're asking for people to, turn in as they're applying for this grant. But definitely the application for license to operate a childcare facility. The innovation grant application in itself, program description, the business plan, the budget for matching funds documentation. And there's a lot of templates on our website, so they don't have to feel like they have to create these documents on their own. And if the business partner, community partner wants to have their own template to write their own letter, that's perfectly fine as well.
Oops.
A lot of animation on this. And then
all messed up.
You are fine. So the timelines and deadlines. So the grant period is July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. That is the last day. The where the grant is open. The application deadline for startup is November 30th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. And then the licensing deadline is, the center has to be licensed no later than June 30th, 2027. So they have 3 years to seek licensure. And the requests for funds are due May 31st, 2026. And just some important information, like I kind of mentioned before, the provider has to be licensed for 3 years. The provider has to apply for licensure either on or after January 1st, 2021. So any provider that applied for licensure before that, unfortunately, they just do not qualify for this grant, but they possibly could for the expansion grant that's coming next. And then providers opening a second location or just even something just new, this will be considered for them for a startup. This is, I want to say this will be shared. These are just kind of 3 different examples of the partnerships. And I won't read that whole thing, but except if you're joining the webinar, we will definitely go way into detail about it. But if not after, it'll be shared and you can, kind of read more of the examples. But it just provides, like for instance, Larry is an attorney and he's just going to provide pro bono services to the child care center. So they're going to match pro bono services. And the child care center is going to match that $2,500 that they're receiving, and they're going to as an in-kind donation, and then that's kind of going to be their partnership. So it can be very like a one-time thing or something that's kind of a little bit long-term as far as this type of retainer for pro bono services. The second one is another example about a local landscaping company. So let's say you have, a partnership could be with your landscaping company that you already use. They just want to help support. So they can get that, new lake shore playground on that, on that playground area out there. And that could possibly be another type of partnership where the landscape company is going to in-kind $18,000, and then the provider is going to spend $18,000 on playground equipment. That's a match, dollar for dollar, and then they'll be reimbursed. As well as like Bright Start, this example is using a little bit more complex. It's using like a regional hospital, and it really goes into different types of in-kind, where some of it will be monetary, some of it will be just in-kind donations, but it just kind of will use a good example of what's allowable, what the expenses will, how they can be matched. And so what's for existing providers? And I know I get a lot of calls about that. How can, grants be for the existing providers? And yes, there will be an expansion grant rolling out kind of mid to late fall. The terms and conditions for that expansion grant are still being finalized, but there will be information that's shared on the website and sent email the same way they sent the startup information. But those who are already kind of looking for, are already started, they can start preparing. Some of the same terms will be the same. So, and they will need like that same partner as well as subsidy contract, requirements. So they can just start preparing, but that definitely will be coming next. And if you have any questions, that's my contact information. Feel free to contact me. I can answer any questions. And if I do not know, I can definitely ask our team and then get back with you.
Fantastic, Ashley. So please send Ashley questions. And Ashley, can you put in the chat the registration for tomorrow if people want to learn even more? We're kind of ahead of the game because the state is not announcing this really. Well, they've announced it, but they're doing their webinar tomorrow. So I think we're all ahead of the game because of Ashley.
Well, you guys are welcome. You guys got an exclusive.
We got an exclusive. We got a bunch of exclusives coming up for our next several meetings. So Tiffany, we have some amazing speakers for the rest of this fall, but do you want to take it over from here?
Yeah, so we're still really interested in what kind of programs and DESE sponsored efforts are you interested in learning about? I know in October, our guest speaker is going to be about the Missouri Professional Development System. And in November, we have a speaker about the Missouri Child Care Works. So please feel free to put in the chat if you want to come off mute and tell us now if you've got some ideas, because we're looking to continue to get great speakers like we had today.
And if you think about it tonight in the middle of the night, email Kelly, Tiffany, or me anytime.
That link was kind of strange for the webinar. Do you have like a regular website link of some sort? I don't know.
Oh, goodness. Let me double check. Let me hold on a second. Sorry.
Take your time, Ashley, because
Okay.
we're going to continue here.
Okay.
So later this week, you are going to receive an e-newsletter from us via Constant Contact. It will have the recording, it will have the slides, and it will have posted some upcoming resource opportunities specifically happening here in St. Louis. So please share those with us. It'll also have our connection to our Facebook page that we would like everyone to get involved with. Kelly?
It would be, oops.
No, go ahead, Casey.
It would be kind of interesting. I don't know when the right time is, but like to get an update from the tornado recovery and just kind of like how are those providers doing, and are there I don't know, and I don't know if this is the appropriate venue, but like I also heard something about Head Start grants in St. Louis, maybe like one of them going back to the federal government or something.
Oh.
I just think that would really impact the ecosystem. And so I don't know. I don't know if those might not be topics for this group. I don't know, but those are like two things I'm very interested in the region.
So absolutely about the tornado response. We can make that happen very easily. So we know that many of our Head Start organizations here in St. Louis have lost federal funding and are closing. Are you saying, Casey, that they're not closing, they're going back to the federal government and they're getting money? And do you
So
have a
yeah,
s-
this is why I just don't know all the ins and outs of it, but like, so Head Start is a federal to local grant. So I don't think like federal funds were cut, wasn't my understanding, but like that the grant somehow was let go of, like sent back to the federal government, like we're not going to administer it anymore. And so then like the partners and again, I'm not trying to like raise rumors
No,
and
it's
stuff. I'm
great.
just curious. Also, like, has anyone thought about like how does that impact the landscape in St. Louis and that kind of thing? Or so yeah, it might not be this conversation, but I'm just really curious about it, and it's something that I've heard like just enough to be dangerous about, but like it's a big deal to lose a big Head Start grant and not have those slots. So what's going on with that too?
Great. If anybody on this call, and I'll send out the question too on the newsletter, if anybody knows of a great person who could speak about this, please contact me. Go ahead, Kelly.
So Casey, I will tell you, I know ACF has some federal funding opportunities for Head Starts that are currently published. So that might be what the grumblings are about.
We'll have to get somebody to speak about it. Thank you,
Kind of
Kelly.
like they've reopened some of the grants or something. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, we can reach out. We can talk a little bit more. I can share more. So our community leader group has a Facebook page. We encourage everyone who is attending today, if you have not joined the group, to please join the Facebook page. It is a wonderful place to ask questions, and we do share out resources. So all of the information that we've compiled today, we will be posting it on our Facebook page. So Ashley, I have a feeling give us like an hour and we can post the webinar for tomorrow, or join our Facebook page and you can go and post it and make sure that we have the appropriate links set up. I know Missouri School for the Blind, you have a trunk or treat coming up. I have your flyer that will be going out on our Facebook page. And I know MoAIM and both the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Initiative Group, they've shared out some websites. So, they go in sometimes and they post it, but we can post it as well. So we encourage everyone to join. And Casey, that might even be a place where you can ask the question of, hey, I've heard, Head Start has some funding possibilities. Who has information? That's a great place for us to ask those types of questions.
And
Yes,
we are
and
at
Melissa,
time. Yes, we are at
Stacy
time.
Raid is a great person too. So
We are at time. So please, Kelly, email everyone any information. I'm just gonna end this with, don't forget about Missouri Family Resources. Make sure your organization is in it and correct, and you claim it, and you and as we and you share it with your families. And everybody loves Dolly. The books are great. Sign up all of your families. If you want flyers in English or Spanish, I can mail them to you to get all of your kids a book a month mailed directly to them. And we talked about our next ones, and our next meeting is on October 15th at 12:30. And we are thrilled to be learning more about all the updates happening with the MOPD system. So thank you all. Continue the questions. When you get an email from me, everybody's in the to section, so reply all. And thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Ashley, for your fantastic presentations.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.